Hey, we're live from 304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I'm BT, and it's the STSPOD Club production. I have alongside me Lance Levine and Eric Crow for Dynamite. How the hell are you guys tonight?
You know, I'm in the Cinnamon Bun Snickers studios here in Chicago. I am CTP's Lance Levine. I like that. That's
Oh,
good.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, Choco, the
And then
podcast says Lance Levine.
throwing it to PWT Pro Wrestling Tees, Eric Kroll.
I am fresh from the Twin Cities where I attended Full Gear Live. Here is
Awesome.
my press pass sticker
Nice.
stuck
Very
on
cool.
me, and we got to hear about an hour and a half of Tony Khan and some of his talents last night.
Man, Eric, all I can say is thanks for slumming it with me and Lance here since you're with, and that's Pro Wrestling Torches, Eric Crow, which they misspell your name, and I didn't. So just remember that. I want to make a note before we get started that we all three watched the show differently. You just said something about being there live. Lance, you watched it on pay-per-view as it was happening.
Live,
Eric being there live and in living color, so we're probably going to see a different perspective with you two guys. But what I did is everyone always talks about the pay-per-view so long, and I was on vacation, so I get in and start watching the pay-per-view about 15 minutes. It was about 15 minutes before it was over. So I got to start at the and then by 12:30, 1 o'clock, I was tired. We had been on the road, and I said, I'll finish it in the morning. So I kind of watched it in two spots. So and I never felt that tired. You know, that tired part you get for the last, I think sometimes the three matches. I never felt that. I really like that, but it's real hard. Lance said something before we went live. How do I keep from getting the spoilers? And I think I texted you, 6 o'clock, 6:15, said, I'm done. I'm off social media. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And you said, no spoilers for me. And then I text you when I finished this morning and said, done. But I completely stay off. I use a program called Buffer to put my tweets up. So you might see tweets from me, but I don't see anything going on. So it's easy, but sometimes I screw myself trying to search something and find out. But yeah, all three of us a different perspective. We'll talk about hits, misses, MVP, thumbs up, thumbs down, and what do we look forward most on this week's Dynamite. This is the same format that we do with Rolling into Memphis, which will be the only other show we do this week because we are in STS Pod Light for the month of November. Let's get started, guys.
Is this a round table? Are we doing a round table?
Table format.
Round table format.
See?
That's right.
See?
So we're talking about Full Gear, the pay-per-view.
All right, let's go. How about hits, man?
So hits from Full Gear. So from the TV perspective, live, not the Eric Kroll live version, but from the TV perspective, I made a list. Richard Mulliken invented the list, and so I'm stealing his idea. He's copyrighted that. So a couple things that stood out. The Darby pile driver on the ring apron looked amazing. I think that I've gotten to a point for me where Bryan Danielson cannot have a bad match, and Bryan Danielson cannot have bad chemistry with anybody. So that was a highlight for me. Jungle Boy getting further and further along as a star. The Christian balcony dive, that was ridiculous. That was like New Jack-esque balcony dive from Christian at his age. The heat for Eddie Kingston and CM Punk, off the charts. I can't wait to hear Eric talk about that.
Right, yeah, me too.
A couple other things, but I'm going to say the highlight of the show for me was the 6-man match, the brawl with the Young Bucks. Honestly, I dare say one of my favorite matches of all time. That match was so good. It had it all. The brawling all around the building.
Oh, wow.
The Christian, like I said, the Christian dive. The fact that everybody kicked ass. I mean, the Young Bucks, I'm just so used to the Young Bucks having, match of the night contender, 5-star, at least 5-star matches. But honest to God, that was one of my favorite matches of all time. I honestly can say that. I really enjoyed that. So, Eric, what about you? What were some of your hits from Full Gear being there live?
I mean, I think both the American top team match and the 6-man, the street fight matches, probably played better on TV than they did live, because especially in that Jericho match, unless you were sitting in the right spot, you couldn't see shit the whole right. Like, I'm surprised we didn't get a "can't see shit" chant for old time's sake.
We can't see shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean,
Remember
I had
that chant.
six of the 9 matches rated at 4 stars or higher, so I
Yep.
could have I could go on all day. But I'll just highlight the first match and the last match as my 2 of my favorites. The first match with Darby Allin and MJF, I did not expect. I expected MJF to not do anything, and I expected Darby to create all the movement and do a car crash. Instead, they had a wrestling match. It was really good.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit too long for an opening match, but it really kind of shocked the crowd. And the card started out on fire. 3 great matches in a row that the crowd was really into. There was a bit of a naturally, Lance, you've been to these pay-per-views live. They're 4.5 hours, and the crowd gets tired at some point. I think for this card, they got tired during the women's title match and the Cody tag. That was probably the low point. My other hit would be the main event. I had firmly believed that Hangman Page was winning throughout, despite Lance's trollery for weeks and weeks.
Constant. Yeah.
I haven't been that invested in somebody winning a match since Ibushi when he went for the title. Was that in January? I think it seems like it was 2 years ago, but I think Ibushi winning the title at Wrestle Kingdom. And I was really invested in Hangman winning. I wrote 2,000 words plus for the torch. And when Miro lost, it was the first time I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
They're going to screw him. And one of the weird things when you were there live, it's, this main event's going gangbusters, and the 2 cameramen, the 2-man camera crew was on the ramp and just waiting there as they were coming up on 11 o'clock. You're like, it's about 10:50. And they were clearly waiting for the Young Bucks to do their run in. But like, it completely takes you out of the match when you see the camera guys obviously positioned there. They were there up there for 3 minutes waiting for the Bucks to come in. So you knew there was going to be some shenanigans, or so you thought. And that really left me having some doubts. But Hangman won. I don't know what they're going to do next for a story. Afterward, Hangman was the last guy in for the media availability, and I asked him, you told this incredibly long story for 2 years, and the one thing we all know about wrestling is plans change, right? How many obstacles, what kind of obstacles were there to overcome, keep the story on track? And Hangman, who was a really thoughtful guy and tried to give actual answers to everybody's questions, was like, well, what kind of obstacles wasn't there? We had a pandemic. We had guys get injured. Just fighting every Wednesday to, for your TV time and to keep everything on track. So he said it was incredibly difficult. And I did ask, I have some fear that, by booking him against Danielson in his first big title defense, you're undercutting your new babyface champion, because half the crowd or more is going to be cheering for Danielson, who is just incredible.
Yeah.
And I asked Tony Khan that when it was just Tony Khan up there alone. And he basically, the gist of it was, the short answer is Tony Khan's answers are very, very long, but the gist was, hey, the fans are into good action, and it's going to be a great match with 2, top guys, very talented guys. And so I'm thinking Tony Khan's plan is to cement Hangman Page as a credible champion. He's going to have Danielson lose to him, because Tony's not the type to change the belt that quickly. So, an interesting way to do it. The more conventional way would have been to have Miro win, and then Page beats Miro. But, assuming that the fans don't turn on Hangman Page because of Bryan Danielson, I think it'll cement him as champion as they try and figure out where to take his story next. What were your hits, BT Express?
Man, I can't do anything to just piggyback what you guys said. I mean, you just look at the quality of the pay-per-view. How, you guys know the WWE pay-per-views is something I still watch, but it's almost like what am I going to skip? What am I going to watch kind of thing. And there's nothing absolutely nothing to skip on this. I agree with you 100% about Eric. You said about where they lost the crowd because they kind of lost me too. I went to sleep. And I did, so I started the match over. It was during the girls' match, but there wasn't really nothing bad about the girls' match. There's nothing bad about the Cody match, but it wasn't the quality of the other matches. There was no match on there that I felt like you did, Lance, where you said it was the greatest match I've ever seen.
Mhm.
But there was, I mean, I love the Darby match. I'm just like Eric in the sense that it was not the match I was expecting. Both guys are two great workers. I mean, you got two guys that are actually wrestling in some really crazy spots, and then you got, to me, because I'm such a Punk fan, the Punk and Eddie match was my favorite match. I may not have gave it as many stars as I've gave some of the other matches, but I felt like it was my favorite match, and my second favorite match was the main event, being a story that goes on so long, and then you get the outcome that you want, and where you think other promotions would just piss on you and to change the finish just because people change finishes because we know the finish. We pretty much knew the end of the story, but it was a great story, and we wanted Paige to win. I'm going to talk about the Young Bucks and everything because there's something, like you said, Eric, what's going to go on now, but that's something I'm looking forward to, and I'll talk about that then. How about any misses for you, Lance?
So the misses, considering I crunched the numbers and I have this as the highest scoring pay-per-view that I've ever seen, the misses are hard to come by. They really are hard to come by. So Nyla Rose working so much offense on the pre-show, that was a miss for sure. All three other girls were working hard. I felt bad giving that a bad grade. That was a 2.25 for me because the other girls were trying and Nyla just can't keep up with them. That's just the bottom line. And it's nothing against, I mean, I don't like her as a worker anyway, but that was a rough one. I thought as much as I liked Darby and MJF, I did love that match. I gave that match 4 stars. There were some of those really early spots that were choreographed so intensely. It was like watching one of those lucha. Oh my God, the lucha. It was the lucha aspect where you knew where they both had the arm drags. They both did the kickouts, the exact same kickouts. All that stuff to me just rubbed me the wrong way. But then they turned it around and they made it a fantastic match after that. I just didn't like that beginning. Ty Conti, God bless her, she tried, but that was probably, as far as the main card, to me, that was a 2.75. That was the only, honest to God, that was the only thing less than 4 stars for me on the rest of the show. The main show was all 4 or better. But the number one miss, and this wasn't necessarily an AEW miss, but the number one miss for me is the motherfucking AEW idiot fans booing Cody. Drives me up the wall. It's the same contingent of fans that they think they're so cool, booing John Cena and booing Roman Reigns, booing Cody for no reason. And then to compound it, I loved it where he presented his weight belt to the handicapped fan at ringside. I'm like, that shows you dumbass idiot Hicks, booing Cody, the babyface, because you're trying to make yourself part of the show. That was an enormous miss for me, which wasn't AEW on their behalf, but these morons that think they're part of the show booing one of the top baby faces. There's no reason to boo him. I'm booing you. So Eric, what was misses for you being there live? Besides Nyla Rose.
So my top miss was they signed Jay Lethal. Who cares, right? He's been
I'm excited about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Phased down. He's been phased down in Ring of Honor. So we were, Jay Lethal was one of the people Tony Khan brought out to take questions from reporters, and he just struck me as two things about him struck me. One, he was a very phony and performative.
Did you press charges? He struck you?
No, I'm a man.
Lance, let him talk.
I'm not a woman.
Let him talk.
Allegedly.
I don't remember the format.
No, he was very like I'll make a dated reference, very Eddie Haskell during the presser, right? Thanking. That's a very nice shirt.
You know who that? Oh, this is the group. Don't act like you don't know.
That's a very nice shirt you're wearing, Tony Khan. No, he was very Tony Khan had plucked him off the unemployment line, so he was very happy.
Sure,
and was profusely thanking Tony Khan. The one thing, nobody asked the obvious question, and since that was my first time and I didn't know the facts behind it, Jay Lethal surfaced in the Me Too allegations over the last couple of years, and so if I had asked the question, I was there as somebody's guest, so I didn't feel so emboldened, even though my journalistic instincts were to go for it. I would have, so Tony, Jay Lethal came up during the Me Too allegations. Is the whatever you're going to get out of signing him worth the crap you're going to take for this? It just doesn't seem worth it to me. So that was one miss, and then the other miss, the card was just too long. It was 4.5 hours with the pre-show, and when you're there live, it's exhausting. And we talked about where people got exhausted. If I had you can't take out the women's title match, right? That was probably the weakest show on the main card. So I would have just taken out the Cody tag match, and I would have put it on as a main event of Dynamite. That was the place where you could have given yourself more time, or maybe not gone as long. I don't like that Cody gets booed. I think I don't understand the source of it. I mean, I do, in that Cody's extra, right? Everything Cody does is over the top, and he wears the suits, and he's got the elaborate ring entrance, and
he's married to the most beautiful woman on the planet.
Who's
jealousy there.
Comes across as a pain in the ass and high maintenance and all that. And one of the things you notice being there live, so Arn Anderson, over huge, right? He does the little Glock thing where he points his finger gun at the translator for Andrade, and he runs the guy up the ramp. And so there's a left tunnel and a right tunnel. The left tunnel, at least if you're looking at it, is where the heels go, and the right tunnel is where the faces go. And so Arn chases the guy into the heel guy disappears in the heel tunnel. Arn just turns and then walks into the face tunnel, like very slowly. Like, dude, the people in the arena could still see you even if the camera's not on. It's like, and why aren't you going back to ringside to help your guys? It was just very one of those things you notice when you're there, but you wouldn't see on TV. So afterward, I asked Tony Khan, "Hey, Tony, Cody got booed again tonight, and he's literally the only performer on your roster who the fans don't react to the way you write it up." And you could tell Tony's tired of answering questions about Cody and why he gets booed, because he just gave the Cena Reigns answer, which is, as long as they're given a reaction, who cares? They're totally engrossed in Cody, whether they cheer him or they boo him, which I think is lame. But those were my two misses. BT, your...
God, the weird thing is, I love Cody being booed. I absolutely love it. I boo him too. I'm a hick, but I'm not a stupid hick, by the way, Lance. I'm a hick, but not.
Why do you boo him?
I don't know. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I think he comes off as the Triple. You remember when Triple H used to get so much heat because he was getting a push because he was daddy's boy kind of thing? That's the way it feels with me. He's and I don't feel it with the Bucks, but I feel it with him for some reason. And I think it is also the reason why they're booing him is exactly what you guys said. I don't really see it as a John Cena thing. I see it more as a Triple H thing. Is he's got the best looking wife, blah, blah, blah. People want to be him and they can't be him kind of thing. And Jay Lethal, I love Jay Lethal. Always have. None of those allegations are proven. So you can't hold that against him.
I kind of think enough time has passed where that may not cause as much trouble as you're thinking, Eric. I don't know.
Well,
it has already been all over the internet, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether he will. I don't think it'll bother him because I don't know what percentage. It's the whole thing. He was never convicted of it, but there's some guys that opened their mouth and said, "Yeah, I did it," and we'll never hear from them again, kind of thing. Here's my message.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't dislike him as a worker. I think he's a worker. I think he's got good charisma and stuff. But again, it goes back to me. What I've said before is that the roster is just too damn big. Stop already. Enough. We don't need, if you're bringing somebody in, bring in your game changers like CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, but Jay Lethal is not a game changer.
I can see what you say.
Leo Rush was not a game changer. Talented guys, but not guys that are going to move the needle.
I think those two guys you mentioned specifically, Tony Khan has a problem that he doesn't have enough black push wrestlers on AEW. He gets criticized for that a lot by certain segments of the fan base.
He's got Dante Martin.
Jay Lethal's black?
Those two guys.
Martin is black?
those two guys, Leo and Jay Lethal, help him answer that criticism, right? So, I mean, plus they're both skilled guys, right?
Then you need to get rid of the 2.0s of the world to make room for guys
Oh,
like that.
I guess, yeah. Does AEW need another guy to job to Sammy Guevara? It his high watermark will be this loss on TV Wednesday. I mean, no, to Lance's point.
Yeah. All right, my misses. Okay, so Cash Wheeler's hair. That's my miss right there. What
Richard?
the fuck happened?
Did you get hacked by Richard?
Did he fall asleep and then they like shaved his head? I was like, what happened? And he's got all the hair on his stomach now, which I think that's manly, but that fucking hair. The Young Bucks ring gear. Oh my god, I absolutely hated that. I almost turned the match off for the ring gear. I don't know why. I know these are stupid things.
These are reaches.
Because
these are
you know
reaches.
why? Because the pay-per-view was so fucking good. How could you hate anything on it? It's hard to miss something. Ty Conte, let me say, her hair and makeup. Who did that? Who told her? I never thought she could look ugly. But close up, she looked horrible with her hair like that. And the final thing, and Lance has finally brought me to the dark side on this, and we talked about it Friday. The misses, you got to get Jim Ross off the fucking commentary. You got to get it. He does nothing for it. Here's some of the things. He really made points when the ref looked bad. Why do you have to say the ref looks bad? He said that Aubrey Edwards had the slowest 10 count and going for a cover that any referee had. Why do you say that? When Hangman was waiting to do a move, which is something that the style of New Japan, watch the way this new style or this hybrid style of AEW, there's a waiting spot in between spots. The old thing, what do you do in between spots kind of thing. He's just sitting there and he goes, he should go ahead. Why is he not jumping on him? Why does he make the wrestlers look stupid? And Friday night he said something about who slipped, Lance. I said something about you. Somebody slipped with tennis shoes on, and he kept making fun of them over and over. Yes. And he kept making fun of them over. He said, who wears tennis shoes to the ring? John Cena, maybe? But Jim Ross has got to go, guy. I think there's just the things that he says just does not fit. It not only doesn't fit the narrative of the style. The style's different than what he grew up. Now, him doing those videos with people and talking to them, I like that. And he looks real cool with that Adidas suit on. So he looks hardcore. He looked real hardcore and thug with that Adidas suit. But I like him doing that. But I absolutely hated him on commentary Friday and Saturday night.
It's like he wants to be the smartest guy in the room.
He's making fun of everybody. Why do you make fun of the talent? I mean, why do you do that? So all right, MVP.
He was a legend, and now, like you said, those sit-down things are great. He does a really good job with that. When they did the Full Gear preview show after Rampage on Friday, his segments on there were great when they're pre-taped. But he's just like he just comes across. It's not even like bitter old man. I think it's just like I said, he wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and it's like that's not necessary when you got Excalibur and Tony Schiavone putting on a great announcing job in the booth.
He can't call the style. That's it. That's why the things that he says, like, do y'all know that when he says that they didn't grab the leg and cover it, it makes the wrestler look stupid? And he's trying to look smart by saying that, but it's making the wrestler look stupid because he didn't grab the leg. So, I mean, it's just really stupid. You don't hear Excalibur say anything like that. And I noticed Tony Schiavone, when Tony's not with Jim, Tony doesn't do that shit either. But when he's with Jim, he actually tags along with him and says stuff along with Jim. So, the MVP, I know who my MVP is, and I bet mine and Eric's the same. But who's your MVP, Lance?
So I had written down two names. One was Christian, just because of in that 6-man, they all 6 worked their asses off, and Christian doing that crazy dive off the stairs. Were you able to see that, Eric?
Yeah, I looked. You couldn't see it in the arena that well because it wasn't very well lit. Yeah, so you just look up.
Right. and it was there. So I just hats off to Christian for like this whole comeback this year has been great. I have not seen him whether on Impact, briefly on Impact, but on Impact or in AEW. Everything he's touched has been great. But my MVP is Daniel Bryan because again, I feel like the guy just is impossible not to have good chemistry with. I've seen we've all seen Miro, Rusev, whatever, in good and bad matches. That match was phenomenal. It's not like, you can't possibly, I feel like you can honestly say you just cannot have a bad match with Daniel Bryan. You just can't. The guy is just, I believe through all the Ring of Honor years and through all of the WWE years with him, I think this is my favorite Daniel Bryan that I've ever seen. I really do. Or Bryan Danielson. I keep saying that. But I feel like this is my favorite era of this guy's career. He is busting his ass. He's working hard. He's in the best shape of his life. I mean, just the guy's pushing 40. Just everything he brings to the table. And it'll be really interesting to see where they go with him now that he's won that tournament. So my MVP is Daniel Bryan. As much as there's been so much Bryan Danielson, as much as I'm like the Kevin Steen guy. As many great workers and great performances as there were last night, there's just something about what Bryan did last night that just really head and shoulders above everybody else. So he's my MVP. What about you, Eric Kroll?
I mean, as much of a big Hangman Page fan as I am, there's no denying when you watch that show week to week, Bryan Danielson, the best performer they have. He's really, really over. His work is amazing. He works well with everybody. So, if he'd been in a little bit longer, put the belt on him, right? Let him just run wild through the promotion. I could go for my MVP with Baron von Raschke, of course, a guy who looks the same.
Das ist richtig. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah, yes. At 25 as he does at 75. Just amazing.
Nothing has changed.
Coming to the aid of Mrs. Jake Hager. Who we saw in Chicago.
Catalina White.
Yeah. But I'm not going to go with Baron von Raschke. Wade popped huge for Baron von Raschke, right? That's from his childhood.
Right.
I could go with, Punk Kingston, split it, because that match had the loudest sustained heat of any match on the show. I mean, the main event was so long, so naturally there were some lull periods, but the fans were nuts, mostly standing up for the entirety of that match. It started with that Punk pop that you get, Lance, from the United Center, and it just, fans were super into it. But I'm going to go with Hangman Page, of course, because he won the belt and my heart. Lance is not wrong when he said,
wait, Eric.
What about Ibushi? What if Ibushi listens to this?
He's got Eric's actually got a picture of Hangman Page behind him, y'all. I'm sorry. No. And Ibushi behind him.
Ibushi's gonna be jealous that he hears this.
Yeah.
Cheating on him.
But yeah, I mean, Hangman Page came into that to that press availability afterward, still in his ring gears, with holding that shiny belt. Man, I probably cartoon hearts were above my head if you looked at me at that moment. And he was just so great. I mean, he was just such an aw shucks kind of thoughtful guy who tried his best to answer what admittedly were some really dumb questions, because we had four torch folks and Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net, which really improved the quality of the questions. There wasn't so much, so it was a really good match you had, huh? Right? I mean, we had some good questions and got people to make some news. But Paige was great. I really look forward to seeing what they're going to do next. The one thing I missed was at the end, it looked like at the end of the match, right before he hit the clothesline to win, the buckshot lariat, he had some interaction with the Bucks, but because of where we were sitting, you couldn't see it.
Oh, you need the TV version of that.
Yeah. So what happened?
All right. So let me talk about that on what I look forward to next week. Let me tell my MVP, and I'll go right with Eric. Hangman Page, the whole long story, wins the belt, ends the pay-per-view happy. And I'll say also Eddie and Punk to me was my favorite match, and I was with the crowd the whole time. I'm excited to see that they did a whole different type of match, but it was the match you had to expect out of those two with what they're doing. All I can think about is let's do 3 of these. I mean, Punk could actually get a loss, the second one, and Punk could come back and win the third one like him and Samoa Joe. Because the fans, could you believe this quick that people love Eddie so much that you do also get a little bit of booing with
There
CM
was a
Punk?
light booing at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. So
Could
it's
you hear that, Eric?
crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Light
yeah.
booing.
He kept.
The
He
look
kept
on his
kneeing
face.
Punk.
The
Yeah,
look
yeah,
on
he
his
kept-
face. He was
Yep,
pissed.
yep.
So
How could he not know after that Players Tribune article in the year 2021, when people are a lot of people have mental health problems because of this pandemic? You're total babyface in 2021 after you publish something like that. Everybody can relate to you.
Right.
Yep,
You're right.
yep.
Real quick, let's go ahead and tell Eric what happened. Was Eric, because I'm going to be looking forward to it on Dynamite, was that the Bucks were in position to grab Paige's feet on both sides of the ring, and they didn't do it.
And Matt, the camera did a close up on Matt Jackson, and Matt kind of gave him the nod of approval to go ahead and hit the move and win the match. So it was a very subtle. Matt barely moved his head, but it was just enough where he just kind of gave the mafioso acknowledgement, like, "Yep, go ahead and hit it, do it." And so that was the big reaction, and the announcing really brought that home. It was a great job on that. So it was a really great finish to it. Really emotional storytelling there too.
All right, what do you look forward to the most on this week's Dynamite?
This week, I'm going to go with what they do with Kenny. I want to see what they do with Kenny now. Is this going to be a quickie reign for Paige? Is it going to end really quickly? Like Eric referenced, and I said the same thing when Miro won that match. I'm like, uh-oh, this means Kenny's retaining. When Danielson won that match, I'm like, Kenny's got to be retaining because you're certainly setting up for the rematch of the Arthur Ashe Stadium Classic, the draw. So I thought for sure that Kenny was going to, that solidified it for me. So now it really throws, a fly in the ointment or whatever, that Kenny no longer is the champion. I had mentioned many times, I'm like, well, you have to keep the belt on Kenny because you're setting up the dream matches with Punk, with Daniel, with all the people that have come in. And people kept responding, well, he doesn't need the belt to have the dream matches. You can still have the dream match with Kenny without the belt. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Kenny, what they're going to do with Paige, because now you're setting up for Adam Page against Bryan Danielson. And I'm like, I don't know that there's, the crowd wasn't begging for that match. Obviously, it'll be a great match. Obviously, it'll be fun to watch. I don't think there's no chance whatsoever that Paige is going to get booed. I think it'll just be it'll be viewed as a babyface match. Maybe they do the trope of the heel team running in, like the FTR running in and beating them both down or something like that. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is what's next in the storyline progression with Kenny Omega and what's next with Paige. Where do they go? What direction? Because I think a Danielson Page feud is not meant to be. It's probably going to be a one-off, but do they put the belt right back on Kenny or what? Let's see where that goes. So, Eric, what are you looking forward to besides Hangman Page and his trunks?
Well, I had a lot of time to listen to wrestling podcasts on my drive home, 6 hours back to Chicago today, and Uncle Dave Meltzer reported that Kenny has not been able. He can't really lift weights above with his shoulders. He's got bad shoulders. So I know Kenny has a match December 4th in AAA. Against Vikingo.
yeah.
And so with their promotions belt, I don't know if he's going to get his shoulders fixed or what. But what I'm looking forward to the most Wednesday is Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii versus the Butcher and the Blade. Poor Ishii. He has to deal with Yano as his tag partner a lot in New Japan. And he comes over here and he's got the American meme wrestler to deal with, so that he's used to the bullshit by now. But what I really want to, after they just flattened the Hardy Family Office, flattened the Faces, the Best Friends group on Friday night's Rampage main event, I'm curious because they must have said the word Okada 10 times on Friday night, right?
Really had you thinking it, yeah.
He's in the country. He's in the country. He's doing a TV taping tomorrow, I assume, in Southern California.
Oh wow!
And then he's, can he get across the coast and go to Virginia for the Wednesday Dynamite taping? And does he come in and make the save? Right? I mean, And do the fans know who he is? I assume so.
Oh, yeah.
If they knew who Suzuki was, they should know who Okada is. AEW fans. So I'm looking forward to see how that intrigue plays out, and of course, what's the follow up with Paige and the Bucks and Kenny.
I like the way you said poor Ishii. It's poor Butcher because he's going to get his ass whipped by Ishii. So I thought you were going that route.
No, but they both will be. They'll be an ass whooping from a guy who walks down to the ring and he looks like he's just going to die and collapse, and then he gets to the ring and acts like he's not. Doesn't have the mileage on him that he does.
Sans neck. He has no neck.
Yeah. BT, what are you looking forward to Wednesday?
Same thing. Ishii and Orange against Butcher and the Blade. I know it's going to be fun when they put his name. I actually thought Orange was going to ask for Okada to come. I really thought that, but when I seen Ishii, all I thought about was Lance. Lance was hard as a rock when they said that. I'm surprised.
There were cartoon hearts over my head.
Over your head, yeah.
When Ishii was announced. Very quietly under the radar. It was very quiet.
Yeah, real under the radar. Yeah. Sammy G, I call him Sammy G because I'm an insider. Lethal, I'm actually looking forward to that match. Should be a really good match. Looking forward also to what they're going to do with the Bucks, what they're going to say about them letting Hangman win the belt. That's what it looked like. They let him win the belt, so it will be kind of interesting. I agree with the general what you're saying, what they say about Kenny not really needing a belt to have dream matches. And here is my prediction, and I may be totally off. But since I didn't talk to Tony Khan, I have no idea. I'm not, and again, I thank you for slumming with this, Eric, because I know, STSPOD is not up there with Pro Wrestling Torch, and that's a shoot. But I say Paige wins right smack in the middle. 1, 2, 3, no interference over Brian Danielson. 1, 2, 3. That will put Tony's new champion with the long story. Will put him over big time as he beat one of the most talented and probably the most talented guy on the roster, except for maybe Omega. But yeah, it's the idea that he can. He makes it believable when they say he can win the match with a different hold. Do you see? I mean, it's so believable that all of a sudden you can see it happen. And the wife actually watched Rampage with me Friday night, and she said that he looked more like a wrestler and they let him do everything than they did with WWE. And she was a huge fan of him in WWE, but could see him as like almost a total different wrestler. So you saying this might be his best work, you're almost there with that. I thought that was a really good match too.
Is there any chance in hell that he beats Paige on Paige's first title defense? And
don't
they just
think
put
so.
the belt right back
him.
on Brian? You don't think?
No, Paige. I really think Paige beats him 1, 2, 3. That's the way.
Yeah.
That is old. That's old school booking when it comes to stuff
course.
like All Japan. When All Japan used to have the new champs, and then the number one contender came in, then the new champ always went over clean because Baba believed in that clean finish for his champion. So I don't know what Tony's thinking, but that's what I'm thinking. All right, we all know what this is, but thumbs up or thumbs down.
It was, again, as I am wont to do, I had thumbs up written down on my notes before the card even started because I know with AEW they deliver. And so I did go back because there was a lot of talk. We were at All Out, and there was a lot of people saying that was the best pay-per-view of all time. We were there. We didn't like certain matches. That show had the QT Marshall and Big Show 1-star Endeavor on it. So there's no way. Like I said, I went back and did the math. The highest rated show that we had ever done before for me was Double or Nothing. Last year's Double or Nothing. I had it an average match score of 3.86. This I have at 3.93. So I think that it is the highest match score that I've ever given as far as average matches. I think that AEW is in this groove of every card, every pay-per-view. We say that was, there are certain people that say that was the best show I've ever seen. And they go out and top it every time. This was overall from top to bottom. This was the best card that they've done. And they managed to somehow, some way top the last one. I think what they've done was, like I said, in my book, everything here was 4 stars or better, except for the Ty Conti Britt Baker match, which wasn't awful. Like you said, BT, that match wasn't awful. It just didn't compare to the other stuff. I know you guys were saying the Cody tag match wasn't as good, but watching it on TV when I wasn't tired like you, BT, I thought it was very solid. It held up. Those guys all worked their asses off too, and the FTR run-in at the end, I thought that was fine. Really, honestly, this card was one of the best cards. It reminded me of the fact that some of those NXT takeovers would just be 4 matches in a row of like 4.5 stars straight across, and then there'd be that one match that was kind of maybe 3 stars, but this card top to bottom, and I don't get what you guys are saying about it's too long, I'm tired. Do you not remember the Wrestle Kingdoms that were 7 hours long, or the WrestleManias that were like 6 hours long? This was just over 4 hours. I was fine with it on a Saturday night. I was fine with it.
I actually said that to the wife today, that I think the only criticism, and Eric had said it about the time, and we talked about it a little bit right before you got in, I think me and Eric did, that to me, they should, I don't know. I think 3.5 hours is where me as a fan I really start getting tired.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that they should have learned from those actual shows that you just talked about that lasted forever. We should have, but Misty said, the wife said, they pay, what's the pay-per-view cost? How much do you pay for that pay-per-view? And I said, nothing, because I bootlegged it. But if I wasn't bootlegging it, I would have paid $50 for the pay-per-view. And what she said was that maybe that's why the fans of AEW, they expect that pay-per-view at that quality for that amount of money. So
you get your money's
she
worth.
said, she said she would feel cheated if it wasn't that,
Good point.
All right, Eric, thumbs up or thumbs down. You were there live, and you were part of Pro Wrestling Torch's after party kind of thing.
Was he? I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, that's what I just want everybody to know that he was there at the
So,
conference.
Guys, I was there, and
he talked to TK, I'm told.
Afterward, I asked Tony Khan afterward. I got to ask like maybe 6 questions.
You dropped some names. Can you pick those names up?
Yes, and so I asked TK as us insiders.
As an insider's call.
Yeah. We'll grant you that status.
I wanted him to do basically a version of what we're doing right now, the round table format. And I said, so did any matches exceed your expectations, and did any matches not meet not live up to your expectations? And he just wouldn't go there, right? Every match was the greatest match. I think he probably went through all the matches. Meltzer on his podcast had 8 of 9 matches at 4 stars or higher, like you, Lance. And for me, they're live. I had 6 of 9 at 4 stars or higher. I can't see shit in the Jericho match, so that didn't make it work for me. The Cody tag was just, the crowd screwed that one up. That could have been 4 stars live had the fan reaction work the way it was supposed to. And then the women's title match probably was in the 3-star range or high, between 3 and 3.25, I guess. So how can you give a thumbs down when it's 6 out of 9 matches there live in the building are 4 stars or higher? I mean, you would have to really be an anti-AEW person to give it a thumbs down. So I give it a big thumbs up. BT, are you going to make it a clean sweep?
Oh yeah, 100%. Love the show. Lance, what was your star average? What was your star average?
Are we including the pre-show or no?
No, not the pre-show.
4.17.
Yeah, I even gave it higher than that. So there you go.
4.17, because I had 2 5s, and then everything else was 4s for the most part, except for Britt and Ty was 2 3/4.
See, I gave it 3.5, the Britt match, but I gave the Cody match 3.75. So every match over 4 stars on an average is just, it's just scary. The thought that every match, big thumbs up to them, and one of those things where I don't know. Everybody's talking about this pay-per-view, that pay-per-view. How can they keep doing what they do? Well, they got such high quality. They got such high-quality guys. They got guys that you didn't even know you wanted to see a match with these young guys, like we were talking about Martin. And who was he going against on Rampage? It was him and Leo Rush against Seidel, and who's the other guy? You had him on a freelance show that they were on Rampage against Lee Moriarty.
Yeah, Lee Moriarty. Yeah.
I didn't even know I ever wanted to watch a match with this guy, but they have those young guys that in the future, and also we will go back, Tony Khan, 10 years from now, we're going to go back and talk about the match, the opening match on Full Gear in 2021 when Darby Allin went against, MJF, and how after 10 years, Darby Allin finally wins the world title or something like that. And Lance, we talked about this, not you, but with me
Breakout
and Richard
stars.
and Josh. Yeah, well, we talked about Breakout Stars, but we also talked about Dynamite when I first started Dynamite. We said, if they do this in year 2, if they do that, you know what we said? And you said, let's just watch and see what they do. And guys like MJF and Darby Allin are stars now. I mean, in that match that they had. Here's the thing that I think why we give the matches such big stars and we enjoy it so much is it's matchups that we just really haven't seen that much of, and there's a story behind it. There's always a dream match, and I made a point of this on Rolling Into Memphis, said something to you, I think, on WTF, is that there's so many dream matches but there's not any dream matches in AEW, but no dream matches in WWE. So it's one of those things where, what are we going to see? AJ against the same guy again? And that's what gave me the New Japan stuff. And now with New Japan guys coming in, my heart, y'all talk about hearts over your heads. Okada's coming in. Now,
that's
one
of your
man.
Is Moose
Okada
coming in?
Moose.
Is Moose coming
God,
in?
I hope so.
You mentioned the Darby and MJF, and that's been Eric. You were there, so you didn't catch this, but JR referred to. They were talking about how Jungle Boy and Darby and MJF, and I think Guevara are the 4, and JR said the 4 pillows of the promotion. He said pillows, yeah,
those
instead
aren't
of
pillows.
pillars. The 4 pillows, and nobody called him on it. Just like when Tony Schiavone said, "You fucking fucked that one up," and nobody called Tony Schiavone on that one on Dynamite.
I'm sure Excalibur is scared to death of JR. Right, the one time he called him out, he got his head ripped off. So.
Right, yeah, he is. So you were there. We're officially done with the show, but I want to ask Eric, since Eric, you were there, and you were there backstage afterwards. Totally professional with everybody, and they're not skirting any of the questions and such. I mean, they're pretty much answering what you asked them.
I mean, Punk was sort of cagey and aloof, but that's his default personality, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, who did we get? We had Jay Lethal, who was just doing the "I'm happy, I don't know, Ringo, I'm just happy to be here," right? Kind of old Ringo
nice
star
reference.
in the Beatles. Yeah, Ringo star in the Beatles. Just
the record store 2 times a month.
There's also a book, I believe. And so let's see, who else? Interestingly, Tony Khan was expecting Britt Baker to come out, and he said, well, Britt had a really rough match, and so she's not coming out. So that was amusing. I don't know what happened there. Was Britt hurt? Was she just not feeling it? But she didn't come up. Bryan Danielson was the first person he had back there. And somebody asked him, is he still getting tested for concussions? And he gave a pretty good answer to that. I think AEW plans to post all of the hour and a half of availability afterward. I don't think this will be on the video though. So after the cameras were off and Tony Khan was walking off the platform, he said, he was asked about, Revolution in the next show. He's like, see you at the next show. And people were asking when and where. And he said cryptically, let's just say it won't be a far trip for a lot of you. But I don't know.
Back to Wintrust.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not like it was a Chicago dominated press corps. I mean, there was Izzy from, from Orlando. Ugh. There was.
That's press corps. You should be ashamed.
The guy Sean Ross Sapp from Kentucky was there. Pat LaPrade from Montreal was there. Wade had a whole contingent there, including Todd Martin, who's from DC. So I was trying to Stephanie Chase from London. Denise Salcido from the Observer Figure
Ugh.
4 website. And so, and the Russ, SE Scoops, who I don't know where he's from, and the Wrestling Inc. guy. So I don't, I don't know. It doesn't seem like any of those people all lived anywhere. So I don't know what Tony Khan was talking
I think
about.
he just meant geographically. Minneapolis and Chicago are not that far
Yeah,
apart. I think that's
6
how I
hours
took it.
ain't bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be
I
happy
mean,
if it were in
you know,
Chicago
Tony
again.
Khan, TK, as we call him
TK.
on the show, we
Yeah.
call him TK, but they are establishing the traditions of where some of these shows are at. Double or Nothing is Vegas. All Out is Chicago. So maybe Revolution is going to be Chicago. That'll be another one. So, but I don't know. I mean, they've got Chicago the night before Thanksgiving also. It seems like they're really heavily hitting this market, which I'm fine with, but I don't know. Maybe St. Louis. What else is in the Midwest that they would go to? They had St. Louis on the map for this show, and it didn't happen. So
No,
that's not that far.
The other guy who came out was they had Dante Martin up there, and Dante was you could tell it was his first one, and he was nervous and wasn't a very soft spoken, down to earth guy. And somebody asked him, essentially, hey, promos you're still learning those. Obviously, you know what you're doing in the ring, but how are you asking anybody for advice on promos? And he said he tries to pick Eddie Kingston's brain whenever he can. So Eddie Kingston, a not bad promo, good guy to learn from.
Very much so. I mean, that's what he got him over because, I mean, he's not the best wrestler we've ever seen kind of thing. So that's what's got him over. And with Dante Martin, I'm calling him I call him Rico, since we're the insiders instead of Ricochet. Rico Jr.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Ricochet potential. For sure.
I told the wife, I said, sit back, watch Rico Jr. right here and see what you think. And she goes, some move. And I say, yeah, but you see stuff in every one of his matches you would never see anywhere else. And we kind of glossed over this, and then I'm going to finish it up with the big catchphrase here. But Phoenix, the tag team match with FTR. Just unbelievably, those two teams are just so good, and Phoenix to me this year has even got better. Like his moves are so smooth. There's just just so good. I know, but go back. It's crazy if you go back and watch stuff last year and then look at some of the stuff he's doing this year. There's not that hesitation or that little bit of slip here and there. It's just crazy. That match was real good, except for Cash Wheeler's hair, like I mentioned. That
I know you guys mentioned different things about the Jericho thing, that you couldn't see stuff and they were brawling and stuff, but I do want to send a shout out to Junior Dos Santos doing the moonsault, the standing moonsault. Incredible. Awesome. That was incredible. That guy, you could tell, yes, he's a heel, and yes, he's on the heel team, but you could tell that guy was having the time of his life in that match. So I thought he acquitted himself really well, and I'd feel
that was just his second match, right?
Yeah,
that was just his second match of all time. So,
and yes, he looks like Popeye, but still, he did a hell of a showing on that. I thought he did a great job.
All right, guys,
send us home, Brian.
I thank you, Lance. I thank you, Eric. Same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there, and as everyone knows, I love my mama.
And I have fun everywhere I go. Eric, what about you?
I'm very worried about Kota Ibushi's shoulder, and I heart Hangman Page.